Hello there, welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we stood up our third modular settlement, and due to all the work we put in setting up the supporting infrastructure in previous episodes, it went pretty smoothly. We made a couple tweaks to expand our farming productions to support the new population, but we ended the episode with the base in pretty good shape overall, with one exception: power. And honestly, that's a can we've just been kicking down the road for far too long, so today, we're finally sorting it out. We're going to double our nuclear power plant. Without further ado then, let's get into it. Alright, today's to-dos: double nuclear. That's the point of the episode. It should be simple. Difference between simple and easy, but it should be simple. We're just going to make another copy of most of the buildings in our current complex. But this is the lifeblood of our entire base. It produces the vast majority of our power, and also it's radioactive, so we're going to be careful. And to wit, as you can see, I've developed at least the rough outlines of a plan here. You can see my blueprinting of what buildings I think roughly are going to go where, and you can also see that not all of the buildings have been placed yet. So that brings me to stage one of the plan, which is make room. So when we first designed this area, we knew this day would come, so we left space to double everything up. And then after that, I filled that space with other things. So we got to make a couple adjustments here. We started to relocate. Well, we relocated all of the toxic slurry production or processing production that used to be here. We've moved that over here into a centralized facility that shares processing with our gold production. But we did leave the hydrogen fluoride production out this way. Easy enough to put this somewhere else. I basically just hadn't decided where I wanted it at the time, and that's why we didn't relocate it. But I have had to come to a conclusion on that, so now we'll be able to relocate that. The other thing we need to do is move my massive pack rat depleted uranium stockpile. I've been stockpiling this byproduct for hundreds of years in-game now, and I promise it's gonna pay off, but we need at least a good fraction of this space now. So we're gonna pick this pile up, and we're going to move it over there. Talk more about why there in a bit, but we just got to send this stuff down that way. The other thing we're going to do, they'll make a bit of space, but I think here really mostly just continue with our trend of getting everything onto rail, is we have recyclables over here I'd like to get onto rail. We have steel over here that we're currently supplying via truck that I'd like to get onto rail. Makes a bit more space in this area. And I think that's it as far as getting things onto the train versus being truck supplied so far. But if there's anything else that comes up while we're in the area, we'll definitely do that too. Once we have made the room, we'll actually build the modules. So high level, as a reminder, we start with uranium ore and we turn that into Yellowcake here in this set of buildings. We just need to double this up, probably mirrored over this center line. These need to go here. This has to move first. This is easy. We can double our Yellowcake production in just a handful of buildings. From there, though, we will have to get into our enrichment plants. And these guys are just real power hogs, and that's going to make this worse before it gets better, but it's part of the deal. It's what we have to do. We'll need to double this up, and that we could, I suppose I intended originally to mirror over this center line, have them here, which is another reason these should all move. We could also place it here. I want to save room in this area for more enrichment plants in the future, maybe. We can talk about that in a bit, but it'll either go here or here, and maybe in the future here and here. Let's see. Then, of course, we have to get a second reactor down, right? That is self-explanatory, and of course it does nothing unless we have the turbines and cooling towers to turn that steam into power and recycled water. Now another note, there's a couple things we don't really need a second copy of. Our storages here, because we have two of these at least, should be sufficient. We don't really need a second one of these. We can simply upgrade this assembly throughput-wise, finally, to an assembly 4. We still haven't gotten this up from a 3, despite the fact that we're about to unlock 5s. So that'll handle the increased throughput, easy enough. And there's one other bit of, I wouldn't say complexity, actually potential for simplification. We don't necessarily need, for example, the second row of enrichment plants to handle the recycled recipe that we're currently using via the nuclear reprocessing plant and plutonium MOX rod production buildings over here, both of which have plenty of headroom and don't need double themselves, we actually technically only need one of these modules and not even 100% of one of these modules to handle that. We're still doing mostly by volume our Yellowcake production. So if it were simpler, we could cut out this return belt on this set, and we could have, similarly, this reactor only run on uranium rods. We won't need both of them to accept MOX rods. We couldn't even keep one of these running at 100% just on MOX rods. So it's probably simpler to keep the flexibility across the entire setup, but if it turns out that that's in conflict, we can live with that as well. So after all that, just fire it up. Make sure that we are actually able to supply everything that we will need, the increased inputs here. We may have to add a miner or two, I don't know, let's find out. We may have to adjust our water supply, because this obviously becomes a bit of a water hog. But we'll basically just get it going and see what we need to adjust to. So that's the overall structure for the day here. So let's go ahead and get started talking about where we're going to move those first things. So the settling tank for hydrogen fluoride. As a reminder, we may eventually need this for making aesthetics, which go into the Med Supplies 3 production chain. We're not so far off from unlocking this. It's also not super critical. I've finished playthroughs without ever doing this before. But we don't have, we could make it on site if we needed to there. It's not a complicated recipe. So I think we're going to make sure that this is not something we worry about exporting, but just supply locally here what we actually need. And it's not a ton. We just need somewhere that we have access to acid and rock. And I don't want to be bringing it in via truck anymore if we can avoid that. So where do we have rock on rail in this area? Or just rock without having to go onto rail, and pipeable access to acid. Kind of here, we have rock that we're exporting. We've already done what I'm proposing, basically to have some gravel accessible in the area, but we could siphon off a bit of rock here, run an acid pipeline just across these tracks. We would have to get the slag exported, which, great, turbine trains are already out here for exporting landfill, no problem. It's better than running slag all the way over here to the existing slag station, IMO. And then we just pipe the hydrogen fluoride down this way and over to our enrichment plants. So I think that's what we're going to do there. And let's just get it started. I think this works. Let's find out. It's not a ton of slag storage here, but I don't really think it needs to be. This shouldn't run crazy often overall. We don't need a ton of HF, really. It's 1 per minute when one of these buildings is running. So we're going to be running 8 at best, which means this will be running at 2/3. So we'll be making 2 slag per minute. I think that'll be okay. But of course, right, the dependency here is just that we're always hopefully going to have some rock. I think that's okay to assume. You know what we should do? Working buffer, huh? Let's do that. Let's do that real quick. There we go. This is like exactly what a working buffer is for. We're going to have spiky rock supply. We just need to make sure that we actually have it in the moment when we need it too. So we'll have a little working buffer here that will fill up with rock before exporting on for either of these much less important uses. So yep, that'll work, I think. Let's find out. We as I mentioned, just sort of siphon off some acid here and bring back the HF under the same ramp and over our glass, molten glass station. So I think that will work for us. I'm not going to delete this until I'm convinced that that is all set, but we'll unpause the game at least. And then it's time to move this big dumb pile. So when we get to the FBR stage, two ways we can go about it. The FBR can be an upgrade to our existing plants. We could build a larger FBR complex somewhere else. Maybe eventually retire this, maybe not, but you know, that's a possibility. So I think what we're going to do is have all of the FBR stuff into which this feeds eventually. I won't drag you down that rabbit hole just yet, but that's what this is for. The fast breeder reactor, this third stage of nuclear at the end game here. We're going to need to do the fuel production for those reactors, and it's going to take up some space, and I just don't think we can jam it in here too. So I think we're going to do it in this area. Probably have to flatten this ridge remainder out, but like this zone is all very buildable, so I think that's going to be the move. And you, of course, for some reason, have logistics enabled, which we don't want. Great. So I think we're just going to move the stockpile down here and probably drain it. I'll reverse it and send it back this way, but I've got to find a way to run a belt through here that still hopefully maintains truck navigability. So I guess this is a spot for the old school ramps to shine still, so I'll slot this. It'd be nice if we could get it over here in line with this one. Maybe we have space for that here. Beautiful. Cool. Let me connect this up real quick. Sorry, friend. So eventually we'll of course have this all drain out this way too, but we're going to start by clearing these out because they're the most obviously in the way. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to delete this and instead have it temporarily, don't worry, snake through like this. If I can get it to cooperate, we will flip the direction. That's why it's being mad. But send it out like so, and then just turn these fellows around. And this is just gonna take a moment, but this should get these 5 at minimum cleared out. And if we need to extend that storage because we decide we want to drain these 3 as well, sure, doable also. That'll just take time. I could do some fancy Unity removal stuff. I could ask our trucks to help. I think we're just going to let the passage of time be our friends here. And while that's going, let's maybe get recyclables onto rail, right? So as a reminder, recyclables here, this is just about eventually fission product burns out its radioactivity, turns into this non-radioactive retired waste item. And the only thing you do with that is shred it into recyclables, and then we can send it back over to St. Charles. So what we do here, I think, is compress it, right? Reduces trips, but also this is just the format in which we are set up to receive it over at the recycling plant. I think what we'll do is go ahead and probably use this same stretch of rail here. Extend it, of course, but just place it in here. So we'll have a compactor on the other side of the shredder. And I'll probably move this station down because it bothers me when they are not at the one end or the other of a station. So let me take care of that real quick. Sure, seems fine. So let's get that built, and that will allow us to clean out this part. We'll still spit out our retired waste. It'll come under this old school ramp, again helpful in these tight areas that we've painted ourselves into the corner of already pre this update. And it'll get shredded, compacted, stored so that our trips run full-ish, because this is only 240 storage for a single train station, and sent out. Now, as a reminder, the Silicon Ridge network, which will be picking these up and taking them out there, already has access to the recycling sorting plant, because that's how we send broken glass back for glass processing here, and this supplies our entire base via this pile. So that works nicely. How's all this doing? Fine, just taking a while, naturally. All right, well, maybe what we will do is allow our trucks to help, I suppose. Hopefully that speeds things along. This is going to go here no matter what, and it already fits. Let's go ahead and get our second crusher going then. The pair of settling tanks, of course, is going to take a little bit longer here. Need to get these here, I guess, in order to mirror. So once this first one's cleared out, we'll be able to go ahead and get that all sorted out as well. I think, is it okay to delete this now? Are we up and running and producing hydrogen fluoride? We seem to be, so that's good news. Cool. So what we'll do here is flip, 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 and I would even say let's upgrade so that these are the same pipe. No, that doesn't matter. Yeah, no, that's fine. We don't need to do that. We actually only needed this to be pipe 1 in the first place. I'm not going to overcomplicate things. That's fine. So let's go ahead and clean this up then too. So maybe what we'll do is flip this so that it doesn't get wasted / is easier for our trucks to handle. But slag export and rock import, no longer necessary and no longer to be done via truck, which is great news. I think we can even help out here a little bit with some Unity. Go ahead and get these all emptied out. Over here, yeah, we'll let this drain as well, or no? Yeah, I think so. Let's do that. I'll still flip this for now so that we're using it quickly first, but this will not last long. This segment already is empty. Cool. This is cruising along. Thank you, Amphibious Trucks, a flexible source of high capacity shuttling. Our haul trucks can't come from island to island, so these guys are great for tasks like this. Once this one particularly is cleared out, we'll get the rest of these going. So speed this up. You guys are hopefully about to grab that? Maybe? No? Some of you. Cool. That'll also work. It should pull this forward. And in 10 seconds, we'll be ready. Less even. So that I will also speed along. These we're going to slot here, I guess, right? No, it's one further, right? That makes sense. Try to keep them exactly in line with this previous module. So I'm just going to replicate the belts and pipes here that we have for these two over on this side. And that should all be pretty much exactly what it was already on this side, just mirrored. So let's go ahead and get all this built too. We are starting to chip away at our current pile of workers. As a reminder, the reactor itself takes 110, and that is not even close to all the workers we're going to need. Each of these is 14 times 4 more. We've just added a few over here, so all that to say, I think it's time to say hello to our settlement for a moment to get this built. Our water's fine so far. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize use of this local one, for which I have turned off alerts, and I'm going to let it run into the ground if necessary. because prioritizing that will preserve this. Should be fine. Back over here though, we can drain a little further from our pipes. Cool. And that's a little bit further resolved, so we'll send this down. Great stuff. Cool. Well, I'm going to come back to you in a moment once the passage of time here has created the space that we need to think about placing our enrichment plant module. A brief interlude by editor me. Thank you everyone who submitted name suggestions for our new settlement out here. Between the comments section in the Discord, we got some great ones. They were mostly centered around the local geography of the area, including the two frontrunners. First, Butcher's Bay, given the proximity to our chicken farms, and obviously the bay. And second, Gold's Cove, given the proximity to this gold deposit, which we have not yet tapped, but almost certainly will. Those two, Butcher's Bay and Gold Cove, were in a dead heat for first, so we're going to extend it another episode for a runoff. So vote by liking the corresponding comment below. Back to the nuclear plant, though. All right, a little while later, we can clean up these three. And I'm thinking about it. I kind of do want these out of here just to give us the most room possible to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and extend this again already. That'll give us this row. I don't know if we're going to stick, for example, the cooling towers in here. Might have to move this. I don't know. Let's see. But we'll clear that out, give ourselves a nice clean palette. We can also clear out both of these pipes. And finally, I think we, at least in very short order, will have our full palette to work with here. And a little while later, the last of it is trickling down, which means we can clean these up. We'll need a connection still once we get these slotted in, but let's get these big dumb storages out of here. And maybe we'll use the space for something. Haven't fully decided yet, but between cuts, you might be able to tell I've been playing around here a little bit. What I do know for sure is we're going to go ahead and put these where we originally planned. I'm not certain we'll extend it out this way. I think we might want this space for our turbines essentially, but I think this will work for our increased fuel production. So as soon as this is gone, there we go. As a reminder, as much of this as possible actually gets sent out this way, right, to get put into MOX rods essentially, but obviously there's been a bit of overflow over the years, a little bit. So we do need to make sure that that is still prioritized, but there's a way for it to come back out and go down to what will be our FBR area. So this is just mirrored. As I mentioned at the top, we don't have to accept both recipes in every single one of these buildings. At most, I think we really only need them in like roughly 2 of the 8, but for flexibility's sake and, I suppose additional buffers sake, I think we're going to go ahead and continue to enable them in all of these. And if we do decide we want to expand further in this area, instead of continuing to go out in this direction, we can always move this stuff back a bit further and run these out a little bit further. So we maintain the future optionality I was thinking about and don't have to, awkwardly plan around it today as a future theoretical thing to take into account. So I've mostly gotten our connections in place, but there's a couple here still yet to do. And the other thing, just as quick context, I think we're going to move this production as well. So where we send the finished enriched uranium product is going to change. I actually think this is really this last stage of fuel production area, right? The MOX rods are made here and feed into a balancer here where we want to prioritize said MOX rods, right, over the uranium rods. The other thing about these uranium rods, now that we have nuclear trains out on the map, we need them accessible to trucks so that we can come back and refuel these every like 300 years or whatever it is that our trains actually need to refuel. Cool thing about these trains, but also spent fuel as a result. That's why this has to be truck accessible for import as well here, this reprocessing plant. So I think this solves basically those constraints. And what that means is we'll probably run the enriched uranium out here on, if not the exact same belt, a similar belt as the fuel rods themselves are on today, to come out and mix up here with the steel. The steel, as I mentioned, we want to bring in via rail now. It's late enough into this playthrough, and the vibe of this playthrough is everything by train. We have steel on this network, very easy for us to bring in, so I think we'll just drop it in here, extend the station even further. I also, thinking about this, I was like, well, we're gonna have to do another one of these ramps. You know what? Let's do the slight rework of this area to take advantage of the new ramps and just extend it out that way. I think that'll mean we have to pivot this to move over here a little bit. Not a problem. Let's use the new ramps. This is exactly the situation where they are helpful. So I'm gonna do that and these connections real quick, and then we'll come back and talk about, I think, what comes next, how to use this space and these turbines. All right, I've done a scattershot selection of different things, so let's talk through them quickly. First, here in the enrichment plant area, we've connected up, of course, these outputs to the same places that these corresponding outputs connect on the existing side. The actual enriched uranium connection actually fits very conveniently into the other entry for this box. I don't know if it stays here, but for now, that's where it is. The depleted uranium, of course, comes out this way as well. I actually did put an explicit balancer in. We didn't have one previously. It was working fine without it, but why not? And so, of course, we're going to still prioritize sending any supply we do have over here for MOX rod production, and the overflow has to come out this way. I was toying with using this area for corresponding cooling towers. We could squeeze it in. It's a little awkward. It wouldn't be perfectly symmetrical. We need a couple more tiles than we actually left. And it's a little bit awkward to have them disconnected in any case from the, these power generator turbines anyway. So I think we'll keep that over there somewhere. But this then I think is in fact final, or at least final unless and until we decide to move all that stuff over and extend this a little bit further, but I think this is probably what we'll do, assuming this stays self-contained in the longer run. Over here, we did extend this new ramp out, and in fact, should probably go ahead and get it all functional. And as mentioned, rerouted already the recyclables that we just set over here. I actually like this aesthetically better anyway, so great. What a pleasant surprise. And as I said, the steel has to come out this way. Let's actually, go ahead and get this onto the track itself and make this connection. If nothing else, this needs instantly built so that this track remains functional. Steel comes out here. Haven't yet connected up the enriched uranium component just yet, but eventually the output of that will go here. As we mentioned, this will need to be truck export accessible so that we can send it off to our nuclear train stations in the distance. And then we'll have this box basically feed in here, deprioritized over the MOX rod input still. So we'll still have to make that adjustment here. This being placed here means that this can go, and we'll let this drain, clean this up, and send the enriched uranium out here to meet up. So this is sort of in progress. When that is all done, then we'll of course run the reactor connections as well. So I'll come back when I have the rest of this middle part sorted out, but I just didn't want to fall off the face of the planet there for you for too long. So we'll get that connected up, and then the last thing to do will be to figure out exactly where we want to place this. It's pretty self-contained, so it's really just where do we feel like orienting it for most convenient water pipe access. The one other thing we're going to need, we have this specific emergency cooling tower for the emergency cooling connection here. I suppose we can consolidate and have both reactors run into this. I don't know if that's actually enough throughput. In any case, it should never run, and if they both trigger an emergency at the same time, that feels like just pretty bad luck. So we could do that, or we could just find another spot for another one. So let's come back to it in a minute, but I think the first things to do are to get the train station built so we have steel coming in. Let's, my goodness, fix the water supply that I really hope didn't screw up our power plant. So far, okay. We do have the other reservoir. This is really just the backup water. Still though, good to have functional. So let's get all of that built, and I think the fuel stuff or the enrichment plant stuff built as well. This is going to kill us on power. This is where the pinch is, if you remember from our first build, because we are spending all of the power, the 16 megawatts of power that it takes to produce the fuel that eventually turns into 120 megawatts, but 16 megawatts up front is not nothing, and we're already on the edge. So let's see how this goes, but we'll need to get it stockpiling one way or another. So I'm going to go in and make these changes here as well, so that the assembly making our primary uranium rods is in fact connected up here. Do that now. So yeah, I think that cleans up this area. Of course, we'll let this drain / have our trucks bring it over here, essentially. Then we'll be able to sort of clean up that last bottom belt there and connect it up to what will be the reactor. So the big thing to have done here was just get the enriched uranium up onto this top belt and yeah, sort of a little awkwardly, I guess, squeeze in here, but it is functional, which is great. So these fellas are not quite working. Well, this one isn't, that's right. I saw that this one didn't connect right away, and that's true not just on the pipe, although that's all I saw initially, now that I see it. Also on the Yellowcake, the loose connection too. I think that was lost when I copy-pasted over. I forgot to square that up, but these other ones are already working, and this one will again soon too. So that's good. We're now operating enrichment plants capable of powering 2 nuclear reactors while only actually fueling 1. So we should have a nice little surplus soon, hopefully. Let's see. And yeah, the last thing to do then is to get our reactor itself set up. So what we'll do, this belt down here that currently has fuel rods is going to get shortened, and it's going to get flipped, and it's going to feed right into, you can't see, but that one, let's just move it back so that we actually can see. But as you see, that first opening on the right-hand side is for fuel rods, and the second is going to be for waste. And so we are going to also need to run, in parallel at a higher height, but the waste over here, and then that will come in and meet up with this belt right here, which is the, as you can see, the waste output belt for the first reactor already. And as I mentioned at the top, we have plenty of headroom in our reprocessing plant and downstream in our MOX rod plant. So we should be, I think, very comfortably capable of processing all that extra waste. How many of these little segments am I going to miss? Nice. All right, but that should finally have steel coming in here in short order. And as you can see, we are bringing that enriched uranium around. And, well, I don't actually want it to be. It's functional so far because our logistics are improperly set. I should have done this ages ago. Do I actually have the... Yeah, okay, I do. Disable logistics. I think it's just because I'm copy-pasting from old buildings. So, clean that up a little bit. All right, so then the last thing to do is, as we wait for that to clear itself out and make those belt changes, the last thing to do is to decide exactly where we want to put this set of turbines. I mean, I think it's here, more or less, right? I guess the nice thing is we have all of this room now to decide where we want to put this. It also doesn't make like a lick of difference. So I suppose maybe from that perspective, we could keep it. I'm gonna place it here so that we keep this this section available, but like nice and tight in this area also, I think would also be quite reasonable. And the water inputs are going to be right here, so the recycled water back out would be, I think, quite convenient. Of course, it's going to be running a pipe to this end or from this end, whether we orient it one way or the other. But I think we can run the steam out this way as well. So let me do the pipe work, but I think that's otherwise going to be pretty straightforward here. I think that works. So just ran the steam pipe out and around, and then the recycled water in here. Of course, we're gonna need a primary water hookup, so we'll need to go ahead and grab one of those here too. I'm trying to think, should we have it interconnected here or just have the same two feeding in? I think we're just gonna pull from this one. This is the more robust, I suppose. So should we have a balancer here to prioritize this? I think we're overcomplicating it. We just need some water. Let's just get some water out there. So I'm gonna run this at height 5 out here and connect up right down here. There we go. So that should be our backfill water. Of course, yeah, prioritizing recycled. This will be the exact same amount of power as we previously had over here. And each one of these turbines, although it could be longer, we could have 2 long skinny ones, each one of these corresponds conveniently with one of the 4 power levels, and that is why it's arranged like that. So, yep, I think it's time to start turning stuff on. Is that right? I think so. So let's start by getting the water pipe in here for sure. But then I think the building itself, probably our next thing to do. Let's get our infrastructure pipes, water in, steam out and around. And I did end up, just reusing the same emergency cooling tower. I just don't think it's going to happen with enough frequency. That'll be the least of our problems if we end up with an overtaxed emergency cooling tower. So while this is going, I'm not going to build any of this just yet. We're going to go stepwise. We definitely don't need 240 megawatts, but I think we can justify at first glance certainly 1, maybe even 2 if we really felt like it. So let's let this go. What the heck? Let's go ahead and build this much at least in the turbine section. So here, this connection, then of course the actual water here as well. Roofing it carefully for missed segments. That would break the whole thing. Seems fine so far. Cool. So while that's up, or getting up and running, I think we should probably do some aesthetic work here. This steel border is no longer sufficiently long, I suppose. So let's go ahead and get that extended. Is this the right one? I have trouble seeing visually which one is which. Do we still have our little template? I think I deleted that, sadly. So I'll do a simpler thing, which is pick the right toggles and just grab this segment here and run it to there, question mark. I think where it becomes a mining zone and therefore separate is here. That's what I've decided. The other thing I'm going to do, I saw a little bit of spaghetti that could get cleaned up as well here, so I think I'm going to take this opportunity to fix a couple things that have been bothering me. All right, never mind. I admit defeat on this one. It's I wanted to run this underneath this belt so that we had everything in a single stack, but even with my hovering lift, we have trouble getting to this height in that turn, so we're gonna not rebuild everything here. Sadly, I think my OCD has lost the battle to my laziness, so that's all right. Everyone's got to win one here and there. We'll let laziness have this one. So, back how it was, but the rest, I do feel better about those sort of awkward, unnecessary pipe changes, unnecessary like height changes in piping. So, good. Let's clean this part up. Are they coming out? All right, they're finally arriving, so fine. We'll let them go. Not that we have to worry about the Unity so much, but still. And good, our stockpile is looking good here. So, in just a moment, it'll be time to turn this thing on, and boy, is this ever going to be helpful. I'm really looking forward to what this will let us do, so maybe we should talk about that. The first and foremost thing that I think this is going to free us up to do is to change the way that our refinery works. So this should completely remove the need for our oil power plant. And I think I know I've said it a couple times now, but I think this is finally it. I think we're going to clean this all up. So what we'll do is change the way this is oriented. And I think we're done aiming for diesel here. Doesn't mean done producing it. It means done aiming for it. So I've said this before, but the way that I design all of my refineries is that they back up when the primary thing they're aiming for is full. And all the byproducts, you have to handle along the way, but when it's full on diesel, this whole thing caps, right? We're going to change this so that when it's full on hydrogen, this whole thing caps. We have been moving away from diesel over the course of the playthrough. Call it probably a couple 100 years. Yeah, we've been post peak diesel for quite some time now. And that's just a reflection, really, of our pivot to hydrogen fuel. So it's time, I think, to finally reflect that in this refinery. So what we'll end up doing is, if you look at our various byproducts here, heavy oil, we'll probably still, run these generators off of, these boilers off of. The whole thing does still need steam. But any excess, we will crack down into naphtha, which we will then further crack into fuel gas. And that fuel gas, as we are very familiar in this playthrough, we can turn further into hydrogen over here. So that's going to be a pretty radical reimagining of how we use this. So it's not really super crazy. We're going to keep, obviously, this big core. And really, I think more than anything, we'll simplify a lot of what's going on over here. The one thing that I'm, I guess, a little bit thinking about is how we make sure that the trash steam is productively absorbed, but I think we could set it up so that this gets inserted into the refinery steam process upstream of these boilers, which would allow us to save the fuel that we're running and turn that into hydrogen through a few steps. So anyway, that's getting into the weeds here, but that's, I think, going to be the biggest impact here, is that we are done aiming for diesel, which is wonderful. And that will also, having high power, will also allow us to make a little bit more hydrogen indirectly over here through our excess power array, which has been quietly a very important part of our power process. It's probably worth pointing out, and I love these stats, this was 4.2 question mark. The recent big change that we've been able to see the breakdown of recipe for these sources. Obviously, most of it is fuel gas, the vast majority of it. But whatever you want to call this chunk, over the last 1,000 years, this is the long time span, and it's pretty consistent over time. It's something like 10, 15, almost 20% of our hydrogen production just from this set of machines whenever we have excess power. So that's quietly, as I said, a pretty important part of our strategy. So I'm looking forward to having enough power to run those a little bit more often. I don't think we're going to run this unnecessarily high just to keep those powered more, but it will, I think, over time also increase that rate. So we have, I think, everything we need, including fuel in the machine and the buffer full, to get this up to power level 1. Let's do it. Here we go. All right, now before we do this, I am looking at one last bit of spaghetti, and I'm seeing that this should come out and be aligned. Sorry to disrupt the big moment, but as I said, we're here. We should fix it while we can. All right, quick, easy fix. Sorry for the false start. There we go. And doesn't that look better? It looks better. But here it is. We have steam coming through, and hopefully in very short order, power being generated off of it. So let's actually come over here and pause this whole setup, see if we can get away with that. It's going to hurt for a second, but this should spin up very shortly. There we go. These are on priority 1 and do in fact power surplus customers. And this is just now gonna live here at 100% for forever, this turbine at least, if all goes well. And I think this also means, yeah, I'm gonna go kill those diesel generators, not kill them, but pause them as well, or let's say take them off of surplus power, which we've been doing to sort of keep the diesel flowing here, and therefore the byproducts going over here for power. Also some indirect, well, some direct power generation, and then also the indirect generation of hydrogen via that excess power customer function. But we no longer need to worry about that. Exciting. So now we should really only be producing via solar and our new and improved 1.25x at least nuclear power plant. Pretty cool. So historically though, I think we have gone a little bit above, right? I think 150 is probably all we should reasonably commit to, but we've gotten up. I've seen us go up as high as like 180 here and there. So it won't be too far into the future that we are willing to get this spinning. So one of the first things that I want to do to sort of like take advantage of this is friggin' fix our hydrogen, which is just in a rough spot. So here's what I'm thinking. As a first step towards changing how all of this refinery is going to operate, one of the things we have to think about is rubber supply. And we've awkwardly been putting it up here via truck. I want to get it dropped off via via train. We would have to either have a train out here running it out, or we do make rubber out here. And at least we normally do when there's enough sulfur. So, okay, put a pin in that. We're going to figure out what's going on there. But I think the reason that one of the reasons at least that I'm thinking, let's bring it from out here, which is what I'm going to suggest. We're going to extend this loop and allow the turbine train network to actually connect out to this, not just the shuttle. We're going to have the turbine train network pull and drop off. We're going to move this station actually because I don't want them on the back tracks here with our shuttles, but we're going to have them come in and drop the rubber off that way. Why from that refinery? One, it simplifies what we're doing down here, and we can just launch all of our sulfur out and not have to worry about rubber export. Fine. The other is over here we have a bit of an imbalance. So as we have cranked up our plastic consumption with a few different new productions of late, we are supplying basically all of the plastic that our entire base needs, with the exception of Med Supply 2 plastic from here. And that has thrown out of whack our rubber balance. And so since we are capping accidentally here on diesel, we are unable to produce all the naphtha we need. Now, because of our buffers, it hasn't been an acute crisis, but it would be good to bring this back into balance. So I'm going to go ahead and make some connections here that will allow that to be possible. So let's hop in and take care of that real quick. All right, so this is the drop off. Long long entrance here so that trains are not causing troubles on the main highway here. Long as I could make happen over here as well. I think that's about a turbine train length, right? Let's just, bam, pause. Yeah, pretty close. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. Perfect. So let's get all that built. God, I love having Unity. That is already on the turbine train network then. Oh, and as a result, I both had to and got to adjust this water pipe too. So now it's a nice straight line all the way through here. I feel like I've gotten to squash a whole bunch of pipes that have been bothering me today. It's making me very happy. So in order to bring the rubber over, however, we have to have given them this part of the track as well. This is sort of awkward. It's a straightforward connection, and I do believe this is functional. But we're gonna, I think, well, no, let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just make this a one-way track for not just the turbine trains, of course. That would be what they're gonna do. But let's make the local network also use it that way. Just because they can terminus doesn't mean they have to. And I think this is simpler, so get that cleaned out as well. Now, again, this is going to cause us troubles here unless and until we get our sulfur situation figured out. Here's the deal with sulfur. Got some out here. I swear, this is the thing with sulfur is that the moment I think we have too much and we need to export it for coal, we're running low, right? I mean, we're way low now compared to where we've been / where we want to be. And it's because we've got, I don't know, 4K sitting here in this ship, not even being turned into coal, which I don't even know that I necessarily want it to be at this point. But so I've in fact also had to flip this to be overflow sulfur export at the very beginning of the episode before we turn things on. And would you look at that? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you know what, we're almost back at needing sulfur import. I have some thoughts, some refinery associated thoughts about how we might make this a little better in the future, but we're gonna live with it for now. And I guess just unload all the sulfur from this contract for now. We're gonna call that good enough. So we'll dump that back out here, and I'm sure a train will, I guess we'll have to flip the direction here as well, but we'll have a train come in and grab it. I'm sure they'll be very happy to have access to it. So we'll call this a load station. All the way through. Cool. So hopefully that's at least a short-term fix. $10 says we are back dealing with the opposite problem in very short order, but that's life. That's our paving project coming here. It's looking better. We're getting there. Very good. I think I saw out of the corner of my eye a bit of a traffic issue over here. What's going on? Wood wants to, what, turn around, but this is full, and then this is full. I thought we had a train limit in here. Always misbehaving, these little guys, it seems. Let's try to pull him back and reset and see if that gets him out of here. Of course not, because you want to go over here. Too bad, pal. You're going somewhere else. Let's see if this causes a problem again in the future. And a little while later, out here, we've gotten some rubber already delivered and beginning to be consumed, and a whole pile of it coming to reinforce, which means let's go ahead and clean up the hand-delivered rubber. No longer required. We'll have to flip the direction on these belts, and this should all be seamless. The other thing we should do is we no longer need this. I built in anticipation that we would have rubber on the manufacturing network, and yeah, it's not. It's a turbine train network thing. So let's go ahead and clean this up. I suppose we don't really need to get rid of the stations. Maybe we leave the stations there for simplicity's sake / also to make loading and unloading faster here. given that it's a relatively high volume station where we're trying to push this stuff out, usually across the street to over here at the construction parts factory. Maybe that'll be helpful. We continue to be limited by concrete slab supply out here. So I think, yeah, looking at our waiting bay, I think I'm actually going to go back and add one, maybe two of these. Let's do two. Easy to pull it off if not, but I'd rather, if we're going to solve the problem, solve the problem. So I'm looking at timing. It's getting late in the episode for sure. So I don't think we're going to go too much further into the, dipping our toes into that refinery section. I think we're going to save the hydrogen-focused refinery revamp for next episode. But I feel pretty good about the power situation now, and that'll mean that we're able to, I think, make a pretty clean revamp over here. If you couldn't tell, in the last few episodes, I've been trying to simplify how all of this works today to just sort of peel it all the way back and, make that change a little bit simpler, fewer balls up in the air, fewer things to juggle. It's kind of what I'm thinking about. Like anything that we don't need over here anymore, let's just get it out. And, we got chlorine and salts cleared out. We're getting rubber cleared out. I think I'm even going to go ahead and clean out these diesel generators now as a result as well. So I'm looking forward to being able to, get rid of some of this stuff. In fact, let me think. There's nowhere else we need to send this rubber, so this entire rubber making process is also in excess at this time. So let's flip that around, and this will give us a bit more sulfur as well. Clean this up. Cool. Like I said, we're totally not going to get into this, getting into it, but this will be a sneak preview, I suppose. There we go. So the one thing that I did want to check on is, are we keeping up on the mining? And the early returns are no, but I don't quite want to commit to expanding yet. It's going to be simple if, and more likely when we do, we just add another one of these amphibious excavators and pair of amphibious trucks. What I'm thinking is this stockpile is being actively built, and once that does fill up, I'm wondering if this will catch up. Again, if not, easy. We will add another set. So here we are. We are pushing up to like 170. I'm kind of thinking, like, worst case scenario, if we're burning an entire extra level, it's 30 megawatts that we don't otherwise need. That's roughly what this is. This is like 35, 36. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do this. Let's get another quarter of this power plant up and running. And then I think we're gonna probably have to call it a day for now. Oops, didn't mean for that to happen. That's fine. So let's go ahead and crank this up to level 2. That does, and see. Well, I've screwed up our production. That's why. No, not C. Don't look at that as evidence of what I was saying. Here we go, though. This should fill it pretty quickly. I think, especially since we're expanding, maybe let's go ahead and add the miner after all. So we'll add 2 more of these fellas, and then we're just going to have to find some rando to turn into a is this a truck associated with a, okay, so perfect. We're going to use these guys, or one of them at least. We don't need a fuel station for diesel anymore. The only trucks big enough to need a fuel station with a particular truck dedicated to it are our mining vehicles, or large enough to justify that, and we don't have any of those on diesel anymore. So you are the perfect candidate, actually, to go ahead and turn into a hydrogen amphibious excavator. Let's go ahead and get you built there. Cool. And that doesn't matter where, because we can send, ideally it's this one, and it is, so that's good. But we could have sent from over here as well. Cool. Power's going, and yeah, a good chunk of it is excess, so that should mean some of these at least are going. No? We should be making 120 plus 30 plus 30. We should be making 180. This isn't spinning. So what's going on here? We're just still spinning up, huh? Let's flip this back, let it drain in. This just getting back up to speed. Probably just a matter of filling the pipe. What we could do, be careful, we could turn it up to level 3 just until the pipe fills up. So let's do that real quick. Oh, and yeah, we need to make sure. I don't know why this one was off for some reason. This one's on. These are all on. No idea. That one specific generator was off. So let's remember to turn this back down, but we should be full in this pipe here anyway. Perfect. Cool. So that should be producing now a very healthy clip. And please tell me then, yeah, this all does look like it's working. Very cool. Great. So, I mean, we're entering the phase of the game where power is, it's not quite yet no concern, but this is like a very light taste of what the next level of nuclear is going to do for us in terms of just making power not at all a problem. So I'm very excited for us to get our feet wet here and get excited for the not so distant future, as we have just about finished our first tech over the course of this episode. That'll allow us, if you'll recall, to upgrade the other half of our research lab setup, which means that the pace will double. Good. There's a whole bunch of great techs in here that we are about to start getting into. But next time, first and foremost, we're going to fix hydrogen. Just really tired of looking up out of the corner of my eye and not being super comfortable with the trend here. And every time I look over here, it's just a lot of open storage space that it would be nice for us to have just an alternate to this, or at least a supplement to this economy that's pretty significant. So it'll be very nice to make this adjustment. I mean, this is basically how we've had the refinery set up since episode, 2, 3, something like that. So it's time, and it'll be cool to be on all hydrogen as well. So I'm definitely excited for that. If you are as well, then make sure to stop by again next episode. Until then, though, have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.